Hi, hello, could you
Hi.
hear me?
Hi,
Yeah,
hello,
yeah.
yes.
I can hear you and I can see you,
Hello.
which is great. Right. So Wen-Yee Lee,
Okay.
Wen-Yee Lee is based in Taiwan, and she's recently joined us for our project Radar, and she's been collecting all the greatest responses from Taiwan and Asia. Wen-Yee has a great experience working as a journalist for some international media outlets. And today she's going to speak about Taiwan and the responses that this island introduced there. And as we know, the way Taiwan responded to the outbreak is one of the most successful in the world. And I was just wondering, Wen-Yee, if you could take us through the most, let's say, successful responses, the greatest initiatives that you've introduced in Taiwan, and what are the reasons like for this success?
So, I would like to first introduce a little bit about Taiwan. So, my topic is about the Asia's responses and also how Asia is using its own technology. Yeah. So, I would just like to use Taiwan as an example on how Taiwan managed to contain COVID-19. Could you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so in Taiwan there are 23 million people, but now as of today, we only have 429 confirmed cases, and also 6 deaths in Taiwan. So the Taiwanese government actually keep the number really low, the confirmed numbers, and we've have no new local infections over the past 16 days, which is like a really great news for now. And the current situation is that schools, restaurants, stores remain open. So when you are going on the streets, you can still see people on the street hanging around, but all of them, most of them wear masks on the street, and also it's required to wear a mask when you are at metro stations, train stations, or high-speed rail. So it's kind of the government's doing really great on containing the COVID-19 because they have educated people really well, and people all follow the government's guidance. And one interesting thing is that the Taiwanese Baseball League is still in play. So if any one of you are interested, you can just go ahead online to check where you can see, watch Taiwan baseball, and you can find some informations. Okay, next slide.
Are there any like audience?
Yeah.
Is there any audience during these measures?
Well, it's not that many audiences actually. Okay. So people tend to watch baseball games online or on TV, and but of course, even if there's no audience at the baseball game, but more and more online audiences join to watch, including some audiences from America, from Europe, and so on.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that's one interesting fact in Taiwan now. Okay, I'll go to next slide. So next slide, I would like to talk a little bit on the 2003 SARS experience, because we had 346 confirmed cases and 73 deaths during 2003, the pandemic. And there was a hospital cluster pretty famous in Taiwan, which actually angered many Taiwanese people, because they think that the measure held by the Taiwanese government at that time was not appropriate, because they locked down all the hospital and then calling back 900 staff of the hospital, and then putting them in quarantine inside the hospital for 2 weeks. So that to the result of 57 hospital staff got infected, which became a kind of a tragedy in Taiwan. So, but actually people or the government from that experience 17 years ago also learned a lot. There were 3 things that the Taiwanese government really like to mention about, which is prudent action, rapid response, and also early deployment. So if you can go to the next slide, you can see there was some early observation and deployment from the Taiwanese government. So since December 31st last year, so the Taiwanese government had already informed the WHO, and also they started onboard quarantine of passengers from Wuhan. So that means that the Taiwanese government really acts really fast, and then they started to strengthening some suspected cases reporting and hospital infection control, so that they can prepare well. And next slide, you would see on January 20th, the Taiwanese government has already activated the Central Epidemic Command Center. So as of today, it's been 100 days. And so because of this center has been activated, and then it's actually days before the Wuhan lockdown, and also when the WHO announced public health emergency, so that Taiwan can prepare earlier than any other countries in the world, so that we can they also educate people and have people being well prepared. And you can see the next slide, which is there's a picture of the command center. So the Taiwanese government hosts a press conference every day from Monday to Sunday. So the command will talk about updates on COVID-19, and they will answer everything that reporters or people would like to know. So it's all about transparency. They report confirmed cases, and also for each confirmed cases, they would check who are those confirmed cases close contacts. So they would ensure that those people are also put in quarantine, so that they can make sure everyone else, the public, would keep safe. And at the same time, during the press conference, they would also educate people what kind of knowledge they would need to have. For example, some COVID-19 knowledges, or for example, social distancing, or what's appropriate for people to be in touch with each other, or say if some people would like to go out to somewhere else during the weekend, should they go this week, or should they better not to go? So the government will inform people everything they need during the press conference every day. And then you will see the next slide, please. So I'll just introduce some quarantine measures from the Taiwanese government. So because of Taiwan as an island country, so most of our quarantine, most of the infected cases are from abroad. So we pay a lot of attention on airports. So once people traveling back to Taiwan, we would check their travel history and health checks, and also they will have hostel booking before their quarantine, because everyone going back from abroad, they have to be in 14-day quarantine in Taiwan. And then when they were on the airplane, they would have to have onboard quarantine and health statements. And then when they are at Taiwan airport, they would have to use their mobile phones to register. So the government would give people, the travelers, some forms to fill out. They would have to fill out their phone numbers and their addresses, the address to be quarantined, so that the government can make sure that they know where they are and where they can find them. And then the government also prepared taxes or rental cars for local transportation. So of course, the taxi drivers would help to sanitize all your luggages or bags, and including the person themselves. And next slide, talk a little bit about digital fencing tracking system. This is the technology the Taiwanese government, which is famous for during the COVID-19 situation, and the Taiwanese government used this phone tracking system to track people. So for those in quarantine, they would have their cell phone, right? So if the person who leaves the place they are designated to be quarantined, then the system would be notified, say, oh, hey, this person leaves the place. And then the police officer would go out to find the person. And also to ensure that everyone's health situation and also their they are staying at home. So each person who are in quarantine would get 2 phone calls per day from local and civil health officers to check if they are still healthy and if they are staying at home, anything in need. And one thing I think is really good for the Taiwanese government, because for people who are staying at home in quarantine, they are not able to go out to work. So for those people, they would get around $33 per day for compensation, and also a special care package. So in the package, sometimes you would get some food or some facial masks for anything that you need during the quarantine time. And if you go out to break the quarantine, then you would have to pay up to $33,000 as a fine. So that's some regulations that the Taiwanese government has. Mm-hmm. And then the next slide, so you will see also Taiwanese government implemented some mass distribution method. So very early on in January, they have already increased the mass daily production from 1.9 million to 16 million over the past 3 months. So they can ensure that every Taiwanese can get, now we can buy 9 facial masks per every 2 weeks. So ensure that everyone would have enough facial masks. And then we are able to use our national health insurance cards to purchase masks at pharmacies, or you can order online. There's an online name-based distribution system. So you can also order your mask online, get that at convenience stores. Some example for data and online mask maps is that we have also have some instant mask supplies maps. So you can check online. Some engineers created this map, so you can check like which pharmacy still has some mask in store. So you can go to that pharmacy or convenience store to buy that. So you don't need to like wait for a long time and go to a lot of pharmacies and cannot buy any mask. Yeah, that's all about Taiwanese. The government, which they have done pretty well, doing some early deployment and using some technology method to help the Taiwanese people to contain the coronavirus. And that's all for today. Yeah. And if you have any questions,
absolutely. Well, thank you for this. That's been really informative. Look, I was wondering though, how do you feel? Like you mentioned some of these apps, that do contact tracing, and whenever you leave your apartment, you can be traced, and a police officer can be notified. How do you personally feel about it? Because here in Europe and in the US, we've got a lot of discussions about privacy issues. So is it like, how do you still ensure that your privacy is not being violated?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually, because I think in Taiwan, people are they're more caring about their health, so that when the government implements this phone tracking systems, actually, I think there's surprising not that many arguments on that, because it's being implemented pretty well on phone tracking. For example, if someone's out, it's become kind of in danger for the public, and then the Chinese government thinks that it's for public health. It's not only for like a personal reasons. So in order to protect the public health for the general public, it's kind of a necessary measure to do that during this COVID-19 time.
Absolutely. So this is kind of, there are more pros than cons. Yeah, well, totally understandable. Well, thank you for this.
Yeah.
And I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy there. And see you soon then. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. See you.